That's the Jaguars graphics.
And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Back in the lab, and guess what happened? We're back in the studios here at Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. I thank you all so much for being so gracious of your time and willing to work with me on the road everywhere that we've been for the last many weeks. We have been at State College, Pennsylvania, and Happy Valley. We've been to San Diego, California. We've been to Atlanta, Georgia, Arlington, Texas, and then back to Atlanta, Georgia. And now we're back in the studios. My dog is like, Daddy, stay home. I just want to relax. So we're happy to be here and happy to be hanging out with you this morning. Thank you for your patience here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And we are going to be talking about a bunch of different things with the man, the myth, the legend, the go-so, you-know-so, the PJ, the Papa Joe is here with us this morning. And we're going to be discussing a lot of great things inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. In MonPosPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', PJ and I will start talking about the College Football Playoff National Championship. Of course, I was on site, on location for the National Championship, there for Players Media Day, as well as the coaches and the offensive coordinators, and then there for the official press conference of the two coaches leading into the championship with the trophy there between them. And of course, I was there on site, on location at the national championship game this week on Monday, and I got a lot to talk about with PJ here this morning about it. And of course, we'll get into the NFL playoffs after that. We'll talk about our Final Four. We got a matchup of the NFC East. Just within the last couple of years was one of the worst divisions in football, and now they have the final two, no matter who wins. An NFC East division team will be heading to the Super Bowl. That's either going to be the Philadelphia Eagles or the Washington, wait for it, are they Redskins? No. Are they a football team? Well, they are a football team, but are they called the football team? No, they're called the Commanders. But they use the W, not a commander. There is no logo other than the W, because maybe they're going to change it again. Who knows? But the Washington Commanders are on one side, and on the other side, we got the two teams that love to face each other. The Bills beat them in the regular season. The Chiefs beat them in the postseason. Josh Allen is 4-1 against Pat Mahomes in the regular season. Pat Mahomes is 3-0 against Josh Allen in the postseason. Figure that out. They'll play each other for the rights to go to the Super Bowl. Will it be Buffalo going to their fifth Super Bowl, or will it be Kansas City fighting for a three-peat to get three in a row, which has never been done in the NFL? So some crazy stuff going on, and we'll talk about that. And speaking of crazy stuff, Papa Joe and I are going to have to figure out if he's going to be the GM and I'm going to be the coach, or if I'm going to be the GM and he's going to be the coach. Because the Jacksonville Jaguars, since they said some things back then and made some decisions, wow, the Jacksonville Jaguars have had themselves a season, and I called this. I told y'all, I think Shad Khan is interviewing Trent Baalke while Trent Baalke's interviewing coaches, and I don't even know if Baalke knows it. Well, we'll talk about how that pretty much happened in just a little bit here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, as the Jaguars are looking for a head coach, and amidst looking for a head coach, owner Shad Khan parts ways with general manager Trent Baalke, so now they're looking for a general manager and a head coach, which leaves all the onus on the owner for Shad Khan to try and figure out who the next leader of this team is going to be. A lot of stuff happening in Jacksonville, but not a lot of decisions being made. PJ and I will talk about all of that here with you this morning as we are picture in picture. It's cold in Florida. It's cold in New York. It's just cold, baby. It's just cold.
It's cold, man.
PJ, how we doing?
38 degrees this morning. Are you kidding me? My goodness gracious.
How we doing, PJ?
You know, hey, when it snows in Jacksonville, folks, it snowed in Jacksonville, which is only 35 miles from us. And it didn't get down here. It didn't rain. It didn't snow, did it, Mary? No, it didn't snow. So, you know, what can you do? You know, there's 4 or 5 days in the wintertime that we really are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But good for me, because Mary managed to get me some wood. So every night we've had a fireplace going for the last 3 nights, 3 afternoons and nights. So it's good. The kids come by after school, and it's good to get them nice and toasty. So it's fun, but enough's enough.
Yeah.
I want 70-degree weather in a pool.
Well, must be nice. That people down in Atlanta, they were cold, and one of my drivers down in Atlanta, he said, "Where are you heading to?" I said, "I'm heading back up where it's colder. I'm going up to New York." So it was very cold last night. But I will say this, PJ and MT, if she's within an earshot, she can hear this too. People have been bringing their dogs into places where it doesn't say that like dogs or pets are welcome. So I've been talking to my mom about it, and I'm like, I want to bring Lily places, but I feel bad because I don't know if I can bring her there, and I don't want to get in trouble. And my mom's like, you know what? Just bring her in. People are bringing their dogs wherever they want to bring them, so bring Lily where you want to bring her, but I don't want to break any rules or anything like that. Well, yesterday, I brought Lily to the grocery store, and we went shopping. So we actually got to have some fun. I said, if anybody asks me, it's like 2 degrees outside. I'm not leaving Lily in the car. But
Yeah.
Lily and I went and got bread,
That's good.
bananas,
That's good.
and strawberries. So
That's good. That's good. Hey, just put her in a little cart. Put her in a cart and go shop at Lowe's or Home Depot or something. A lot of people do that.
There you can bring them.
They're about 6 inches long, these little dogs.
Yeah, she's very tiny. So I just held her in my arm and brought her around the store, put a sweater on her. I was just going to let people know she was a hairier part of the family. That's all I was going to say. So we're good. We got her there. We got in. We got out. I felt like I broke out of jail. It was pretty nice. But
all right.
With that being said, PJ, the college football playoff, perfect segue. Dog it at the supermarket. It's college football playoff. But going to the college football playoff, Ohio State facing off against Notre Dame. And you and I did not have them predicted to be there, but we both obviously have given respect to the fact that these teams got to this point. Ohio State coming in as a powerhouse, Notre Dame coming in as the underdog, and in the building, when I can tell you from being in that building at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, there was a lot more red than green. There was a big green area, but there was a Red Sea. And I'll tell you what, Notre Dame didn't part that Red Sea many times in this game. So your thought about Ohio State and Notre Dame after watching the game?
Well, it was going to be an exciting game. It didn't turn out to be that way, but at the end it got a little exciting. But I was going back and forth from the inauguration was such a ball, and Mary and I had it on all day long, and I was flipping from the game to the inauguration at the game inauguration. I noticed that Notre Dame did exactly what they wanted to do the first 10 minutes of the game. A big, long drive, running, very few passes, keeping the clock going, keep the ball out of their Ohio State's hands, and it was very successful.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is when that ended, Ryan Day let the dogs out.
That's right.
And the dogs came and kicked ass. So it was a small game to begin with, a huge game in the middle when Ohio State finally took over. In the very last part, it was had to be a great catch by the young freshman wide receiver for Ohio State that put the game away. So kudos to Ohio State, which I never thought I would say, Daniel. I got to eat crow here. I mean, for all you listeners out there that knows that I'm an SEC man and we got the heck kicked out of us, I got to say that, I told you, when they beat Tennessee so bad, I said, Daniel, they're in the barn. They are in the barn, and they were.
Yeah.
Unchallenged, really. I have to say, congratulations to Ohio State and Ryan Day. Congratulations to Notre Dame, too. I mean, Daniel's always fush at you for not playing anyone, and it's true, but you did a good job in this game. But Ryan Day had his boys played. They had his boys ready. He's got an NFL quarterback. He's got an NFL offensive line. And he's going to get an All-American wide receiver. I mean, how can you beat that? I mean, if they wanted to turn around and run the ball for 8 minutes, they could do that too. But they wound up with, 75% more yards than Notre Dame. They ran for over 200 yards. They passed for over 200 yards. Will Howard is an NFL quarterback, period, folks. Yeah. And I'm going to go into that a little later on. I got 10 kids on my list that are supposed to be quarterbacks next year in the NFL. So we'll see where he lands there. So does Riley Leonard. He's on my list too. Both of these guys are professionals. They did exactly what their coaches wanted them to do.
Yeah.
Notre Dame just came up a little light. So congratulations to both teams and to Ryan Day and Ohio State.
Yeah, they did an incredible job. You and I both have to eat crow because we both didn't have Ohio State, Notre Dame going. I never said these teams weren't capable. I never said they weren't talented. I never said they weren't good. I never said they can't send anybody to the NFL. I never said any of those things. But I looked at their schedules and said they really didn't play anybody. So, how am I essentially supposed to believe that these teams, Ohio State played Oregon close, but they had lost that game. Notre Dame had lost to Northern Illinois. They had the win over Texas A&M, which was good. But I was looking at this saying to myself, okay, I mean, they keep getting high in these rankings. They're not moving in the rankings. Ohio State starts in the top four. They stay in the top four. What have they done, so to speak? And, this year they proved it. This year they proved that no matter who was on that schedule, I mean, these teams were the best teams. And Molly McGrath of ESPN, when I interviewed her, she said to me that, and you could go watch it on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, on facebook.com/wakeupcalldT, on X at calldt, and Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. When I spoke with Molly, she said, think about the fact that if this was a 4-team playoff, Ohio State and Notre Dame wouldn't have even made it. So the two teams that were the best teams this year wouldn't even have been in it if we were still at 4 and not at 12. So you and I both have to eat crow that Notre Dame and Ohio State were better than we thought they were. And that's okay. I'm happy to eat crow to be on that. Listen, whoever won the national championship, to be on that field, I didn't care who won. To stand on that field, to walk around, to know that God got me there, and to know that I got to sit here and be proud of that moment. And I got to see my buddy Riley Leonard, who I consider someone who I'm known for a long time, and he's been very nice to me and gracious, and I consider him a friend. To have that, to get to talk to Will Howard a couple times, which has been wonderful. To be around these coaching staffs, to be around these players. I already won. Like in my thing, like I had already won when I got down there safely, and God helped me to get there in my career. The game, God won this game, and I said that on the sideline before the game. I put a video out called "Faith on the Field." That God already won this game because the players and the coaches were talking about God and Jesus and faith. So to me, whoever won that game, God already won. Because God was being talked about to millions of people, billions of people all over the country because of Christians and people that believe in God that weren't afraid to talk about him. So to me, it was a lot bigger than the game, and I love that. And I told Jim Ursakowski, the owner-operator at Chick-fil-A Cicero and a proud partner, and more than that, a brother to me, I said to him yesterday when I went to visit him, I said, Jimmer, let me tell you something. I said, you were right. I was wrong about Notre Dame. And I said, it's because of you that I think I like this team now. And I told him, I said, I get it. I get why you like them. Because being around, going to CBA and getting a Catholic education, my whole upbringing, and, Jimmer's connected to CBA with his kids. And then, he obviously loves Notre Dame. And so I told him, I said, I can see why, you like Notre Dame because of your care for God and, his connection to CBA. And I told him, I said, I see it now that I've talked to Marcus Freeman, now that I've been around it more. I said, I see it now, and it's kind of opened up my eyes. So, Jerry, I know you're watching and you're listening. I think I'm going to root for Notre Dame, except for when they play Syracuse, probably. So, there's been a little change of heart. And I'll tell you this, Ryan Day, he has been such an incredible coach, and he has done such an amazing job. And I spoke with him after the game about how he was excited because Papa Joe, we see coaches are up by 14 and they walk on the field and they look like they just went to the bathroom or they got to go to the bathroom. And then they're up by 3 touchdowns and he's just scratching his face, looking serious. Ryan Day was running up and down the field, jumping up in the air, yelling, screaming, grabbing his guys, smiling throughout the game. And I love seeing his emotion. I love seeing his excitement and his happiness. He enjoyed the game. And Marcus Freeman on the other side, he shows his emotion and he enjoys the game too. It looked like two coaches that were having fun. It looked like whoever won, those leaders were they love their guys and they care about their guys. And I got to give it up to Ohio State, and I got to give it up to Notre Dame because they put on a great show. I'm happy that they made it. And, you know, not every prediction I make is right. This one I was happy was wrong. And I just thought we were spoiled, PJ, to have two teams talking about God, two talented teams, two really good quarterbacks, and just guys that went out there and had some fun.
That's good. Of course, on the other station, too, when I was flipping back and forth, Donald was talking about God.
Yeah.
God we trust, God in everything, which was really surprising. And it perked some people's ears up to hear him talk like that, and the rest of his people talk like that, which is fine. I'm glad to see there's God in our country. There's God in our national anthem. There's God everywhere, period. However, I do have to take issue with you on Notre Dame. I don't think that they deserve to be in the Final Four. They did it this year. They did a good job. Congratulations for them. I thought they were overrated at the beginning of the year, and I thought they were overrated at the end of the year. However, doesn't matter. They did their job. They beat some teams, and they got to play the big dogs. And kudos to them. Next year, who knows? I mean, with NIL and all this stuff happening, you don't know where kids are going. I mean, both of these guys could lose their entire offensive and defensive lines. I mean, that's how serious it is. You know they're going to lose their quarterbacks. The quarterback's going to be drafted. And I got a list of quarterbacks here to go over, and it doesn't put Cam Ward and Shedder Sampson in front. It is because there's other guys that are doing better and are more poised, especially Leonard was extremely poised. And Will Howard, I mean, I watched him for 3 games, and he was lights out. You know, I know he played at Kansas State, which is no big school by any means. It's big, but not in football terms. But he came to Ohio State, and he showed them why he threw for 1 million yards at Kansas State. So anyway, with that being said, it was exciting to watch the last half, and the catch by the wide receiver from what's his name, Daniel.
Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, he's a man amongst boys. I mean, I know he's a freshman, but he looks like he's 25, and he acts like he's 25. He jumps like he's 25. So he made the big play, and he made a lot of catches. And you know, I noticed that when they played Texas, he was targeted twice and only caught 1 ball for 3 yards. Now Texas took him out of the game. Now, I don't know why Notre Dame didn't double him. Maybe they did. I didn't see that. If they were playing man-to-man, they certainly didn't double him. But if they zoned, they would have had a guy in front and a guy behind him. But you can't let a kid like that run loose, and you can't let a guy like Will Howard sit back there for 4 seconds and wait. And Leonard the same way. These kids are quality quarterbacks. Yeah. And Jeremiah Smith he'll be a legend in college football if he comes back healthy next year. So kudos to both teams again. I did pick Ohio State to go all the way. And I did that after watching them kill Tennessee. And I'm thinking, you know, Georgia can't do that to Tennessee. How can anyone else do that? And they did. So, hey, we'll see what happens next year. It'll be fun. It was fun this year. It'll be fun next year, of course. Maybe, Daniel, can you see my shirt?
Can
you see my shirt?
A little bit there.
You can see my shirt.
I can see it a little bit. Go Gators.
Go Gators. I got my Florida sweatshirt. Maybe next year we'll be able to talk about Florida being one of the better teams, which they should be. But again, you're going to hear it first here again. Their schedule is maxed out, and it's awful. Yeah. It's almost as bad as this one. They're playing all the top teams that they played this year, and some of the pundits down here are actually saying that the most that Florida could win is 6.5 games. I don't know how you win 6.5 games.
I was going to say how do you win a half a game, but I don't know how you do that. PJ, you're wearing your Gator shirt. I'm wearing the shirt of the next Jaguars general manager. You want to see who it is?
I see that.
You want to see who it is?
Dan Tortora. How did you do that? You had it printed that way.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Look,
the next
you
general
can take
manager.
the coach. I'll be the GM. Okay.
You'll be the GM? All right.
Yeah.
I'll be the coach. I'll whip him into shape. So, PJ, I want to let you know this really quick here. Notre Dame next season, without Riley Leonard, Notre Dame is going to be at Miami, at Texas A, or pardon me, at Miami, Texas A&M at home. This is how their season starts: at Miami, Texas A&M, Purdue at home. Purdue is awful this year. At Arkansas, they got to play, but they got to play Miami without Cam Ward. They got to play Boise State at home without Ashton Genty. They got to play Syracuse without Kyle McCord. So they are playing some tough games next year, but they're playing games after some of these big guns are going to be gone. Let me tell you Syracuse's schedule, just for argument's sake, since you talked about Florida State. Syracuse, the other orange and blue, they have to go on the road next season to Clemson, SMU, Notre Dame, and Miami.
Sounds like 0-4 right there, buddy.
It's a tough road.
It is.
Down there.
With the influx of these new teams for the SEC, Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma didn't hold up their part of the bargain, but Texas was good. I still, can't think of them as SEC. I know they're part of it, but
yeah,
I can't do that. I mean, I just can't do that yet.
Well, and I got to ask, speaking about can't do that yet, I want to ask you this. They put out a way too early college football rankings for 2025 going into the season. They got Ohio State number 1, who's not going to have Will Howard as their quarterback. They have Texas 2, who's going to have Arch Manning as their quarterback. They have Penn State 3, Drew Aller's coming back. And Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, they're 2 running backs that did well. They're coming back. And then they put Notre Dame 4. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, the running backs, are coming back. Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, who went to the house twice in the second half of this championship game, he'll be back. But they're losing their tight end, Mitchell Evans. They're losing Riley Leonard, their quarterback. They got Georgia number 5. Gunnar Stockton, who we saw a little bit of, he's going to be the starter now. Carson Beck is gone. He went off to Miami. Oregon, they got Oregon as 6, and Oregon's losing their quarterback. They're losing a couple running backs, a couple receivers, a running back. They got Clemson at number 7. Cade Klubnik, their quarterback, is coming back. They're losing their running back, Phil Maffa, who's a big man of God. Appreciate Phil Maffa very much so. And then LSU, they got at 8 with Garrett Nussmeier coming back. They got BYU at 9. Jake Retzlaff is coming back at quarterback. They got a few guys coming back there. And they got South Carolina at 10. Key returning player, one of the guys they got down, Lenoris Sellers. Where's Lenoris from? South Carolina. Who did he originally commit to? Syracuse. Whose show was he on? Wake Up Call. Where did he go to? South Kakalaki. And that man's making millions of dollars right now in NIL. So, PJ, in the way too early rankings, do you agree Ohio State 1, Texas 2, Penn State 3, Notre Dame 4, and Georgia 5?
I wouldn't put Notre Dame up there, but I would put Penn State up there. They do have their quarterback and running backs coming back. No surprise there. They're good. They're good. Georgia, I don't know. Kirby Smart's got a big job ahead of him. I know this kid's going to be okay. This Gunnar Stockton kid, he may be around for a couple more years. I'm not sure, but he's the real deal though. And they got Florida. I think at this state they got Florida at 15 this year. I mean, Florida's not ranked in the top 25 in any college or any poll in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's deservedly so because they haven't won. They may win next year. Number 15 is reaching it. They could. I don't know. They could have maybe they could have a 500 record until they get to some big games late and squeak out another bowl game. But the whole country is waiting for DJ Lagway to play, and he will be the number 1 rated quarterback next year playing. Better than Nussmeier at LSU and better than Sellers at Ohio State, who was really good. So, look for him to really light it up. If he lights it up good and Florida's defense plays well, then maybe they'll have a better than average chance of being better than 15. We'll see.
Yeah. And something just came up here. I had and Jerry mentioned it in our chat room as well. I had mentioned this week the notion that I was thinking of Al Golden leaving the Notre Dame Fighting Irish after the college football playoff national championship, and now he's expected to do exactly that and join the Cincinnati Bengals allegedly as their defensive coordinator. Your thoughts?
I read that also. This is his second tour with Cincinnati. He's another guy that's been around a long time, class guy, good fundamentals, but can only help Joe Burrow and the boys over there in Cincinnati.
Yeah. So I had made mention of it. I got asked by a fan. They asked me about Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator of Ohio State. And they said, what do you think about him and his future and da da da. And I said, I got a thought about Al Golden. And one Notre Dame fan was like, really? And I was like, I don't know. I got a feeling about it. So Al Golden, I had spoken about the potential of him leaving the Notre Dame Fighting Irish after the college football playoff national championship. And here we are this morning with the news that he is allegedly going to the Cincinnati Bengals to be their DC. So I wish him the best. It was good to talk with him. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it for him. I'm sad for Notre Dame. But it was interesting when I saw Al Golden was at Notre Dame. For me personally, it was cool because I first crossed paths with Al Golden when I started covering the ACC back at the beginning. And when I started doing that over a decade ago, Al Golden was the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes. So that was when I crossed paths with him originally. And then I got to interview him at the national championship going into it, which was fun. And I'm happy I got to do that. But yeah, my thought was, I'm like, Al Golden, former head coach, if he could find a fit, then good for him. But I am sad for Notre Dame. Any other thoughts, PJ, about the college football playoff that you would like to make sure that we talk about here before we hop out of it?
I suppose we'd have to both agree that the 12-team playoff was successful.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't like to see it that long. There's no reason that it's got to be this long. Maybe they can cut it to 6 teams or 8 teams. For me, I'm an old time guy. I mean, you got to go to class, you got to do your papers, you got to turn in term papers, you got to do your homework. None of these kids do that stuff. Forget about it. It's all online now. You can zip in your papers everywhere. I don't know. I suppose it'd have to be a success. It does give other teams a chance to vie for the championship. But I think next year we may see maybe some other teams branch out from maybe the committee will take some teams other than the Big Ten and the SEC. Let's face it, that there were 8 of them there, or 7. The other teams have just got to flounder, I guess, until if they make a good impression, they can make it. I'd like to see some other teams do it, but it's just not going to be the same. I mean, look, Indiana had a good team this year. They had a good record, but they weren't in the same class as the schools we talk about all the time. I know that the SEC is going to have a hair up their butt because they got pushed around late in the year, and that's not going to set well with some of these guys. So I look for the big teams to start storming through, and we'll see what happens. Perhaps maybe they can tweak the playoffs a little bit. I don't know if they can make it more competitive, but it was certainly fun to watch.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I would agree with you that the 12-team playoff is a success. I like the bracket. I know they had a tiny bracket when they went to 4, which I mean that's all well and good, but to me, 12, as Molly McGrath said to me, if we didn't have 12, we wouldn't have Notre Dame and Ohio State. So I think the 12 works. If they go to 14 or 16, I'm okay. I don't think we need to go farther than that. I think if we go far, what did Molly McGrath say? She said, if they go to like 18, I think I'll die, is what she said to me. So, but and I would agree with Molly. If they go more than 16, then I'm just gonna live on the road and sleep in my car. But I definitely I think the 12 works. I think the spacing was good. You know, you got like around the December 20th, 21st games, and then you broke for Christmas, so nobody was playing on Christmas. And then you played, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then you have games about, 8 or 9 days later, and then you have a game 10 days later. That was fine. There's about a week and a half in between the rounds. So, I mean, I'm good with that. I can roll with that. They're doing it during the winter, and obviously winter was a factor. In some places it typically isn't, like Atlanta and Arlington. So, some flights got delayed or canceled. Atlanta trying to de-ice a plane, that was we took off after we were supposed to land. But thankfully we took off because the plane after us did not take off and they went the next day. So God bless. I hope those people are back to where they need to be, safe and sound now and not too behind schedule. So, yeah, I mean, I think the 12 team was good. I think it works. I love it. I loved being a part of 4 rounds. So, I mean, I say keep it at 12. If they go to 14, I'll be okay. If they go to 16, I may have to have a heart monitor with me. But I think 12 is all right. And to me, PJ, I think the one thing they're probably going to look at changing, and they had kind of addressed this a little bit going into the game when they spoke to the committee on the field, that they can tweak this. So it sounds like they kind of have whatever deal that they have for the college football playoff right now, that they have the ability to meet and adjust, that they can amend or addendum or whatever they need to do to this college football playoff, because it sounds fluid in the sense of how do they put the 4 byes? Are they going to expand? What makes sense? It sounds like they have wiggle room. They're not talking like we signed this deal and we want to change some things, but we can't change it until a decade from now. It sounds like it's a year-to-year thing that they can look at and see what they want to do with it. And what I think they might do, based on this year, and it's only been 1 year, but I think they might get rid of the top 4 teams that get a bye, that those teams are conference champions. They might get rid of that. And they might have the top 4 byes are just going to be the top 4 ranked teams. So instead of having 4 conference champions, they might be a conference champion, but they might not be. They might just take the top 4 best teams that they consider to be and give them an advancement to the next round instead of giving it to the conference champions. Agree or disagree if they say the top 4 byes are not going to necessarily be champions. They're going to be the top 4 teams that we think are the best 4 teams.
That's the way it should be. It should be it should be top 4 teams. That could bring in a whole different scenario. Unfortunately, that's going to leave out some maybe conference champions that want to be there that can't because they're not competitive enough. Especially, like the BYUs and Utahs and things like that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, Daniel. It's the SEC Big Ten tournament. I mean, we know that, they know that, and I wouldn't be surprised if 8 teams get in again next year, and so the people are going to have to deal with it. The four teams that are at large got to play better if they want to play with the big boys, and that's what's going to happen, I think.
Yeah, and when we look at it right now, if we look at the final college football playoff rankings here, if it'll let me see it, here we go. So if the college football playoff were to take the top 4 teams and not the top 4 conference champions, if they didn't take the top 4 highest ranked conference champions and they just took the top 4 teams, it would have been 1 Oregon still, 2 Georgia still, 3 Texas, and 4 Penn State. And so those teams would have gotten a bye. Notre Dame would have gotten a 5. So they would have been in automatic. No, they wouldn't have had an automatic, but they would have been the 5th seed potentially. And then Ohio State would be 6. Tennessee would be 7. Indiana would have been 8, which I don't think they should have been in it. Boise State would have been 9, SMU would have been 10, Alabama would have been 11, and Arizona State would have been 12. So that would have knocked out Clemson, but if they still took conference champions and Clemson would have knocked out Arizona, well, no, they wouldn't have because Arizona State won. They would have knocked out Alabama. But looking at this hindsight 2020, they didn't let a team in that had 3 losses. And whether they said it publicly or not, they didn't let in any teams with 3 losses as an at-large. And they punished Clemson that even though they won a conference championship, they made them the 12 seed out of 12, and they were the only team in the field that had 3 losses. So I think the committee made it pretty clear. Clemson's only in because they won the conference championship, but because they have 3 losses, they're at the end, and we're not letting anybody in at large. But looking back at it, hindsight 2020, there were 3 SEC teams that had 3 losses. Would you have put in Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, any of those teams at 9-3 now that we've played the games? Would you have rather put them in?
Definitely Ole Miss. There's a lot of teams out there that were ranked above them that did not want to mess with Ole Miss. Jackson Dart is probably going to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted this year for the NFL, and he's certainly better than the guys I got on my list. This kid ran Lance Kifkin's offense perfectly. He's a tough, strong guy, runs really well, which is your bailiwick, although I don't like to see that. And he's got an accurate arm, strong arm. Of all the teams you mentioned, Ole Miss would be the ones that they didn't want to mess with.
Yeah, I would agree with you because I had people talk about Alabama, and I put Alabama in. And
I wouldn't put Alabama there because of Milroe. No, Milroe is not a top-flight quarterback, and he's probably not going to be drafted high. He'll be drafted, of course, but to compare him and Jackson Dart, no comparison at all.
Yeah, and I agree with you because, I kept saying when people would talk about it, like, man, Alabama should have been in, Alabama shouldn't have been in, and every time I heard that from anybody, my response is Ole Miss. I was Ole Miss, South Carolina, then Alabama because Ole Miss was a threat. South Carolina came on as a threat later on in the season, and Alabama was less of a threat. And we look at just to me this year, Ole Miss of the 3 was the biggest threat. I agree with you on that. I had said I don't think anybody wants to play Ole Miss. So to me, that would have been a better move for them. They'll have to look at it as they step forward here. But like you said, this is the SEC Big Ten Championship. I think people know that. I think people understand that. So, that's just been reality of what's going on here. So for me, I think, the college football playoff was a success, and there's a lot of great things that came from it. And obviously they'll tweak it, and they'll look at it, and they'll figure out what they like and what they don't like and see what they could do moving forward. But Ole Miss was probably the team that shouldn't have been left out. Indiana's the team that probably shouldn't have been in this year. And again, it's no knock on Indiana. It's not a fight with Indiana. I'm happy they went 11-1, but they beat 11 unranked teams, and that doesn't matter in the American, allegedly. It doesn't matter in Conference USA, allegedly. It doesn't matter in the MAC, allegedly. It doesn't matter in the Sun Belt, allegedly. So, why does it matter? And PJ, I still can't get over this, that there was a network that put up, before the Ohio State-Notre Dame game, they put up a graphic that said, if Indiana loses to Ohio State in the regular season matchup, they had a 96% chance of making the college football playoff if they lost.
Oh, my goodness.
How do you get a 96% opportunity in a loss? They got blown out, and they got promoted for not playing in their conference championship, promoted for having 11 unranked wins, and promoted for getting blown out by the who became the national champion. To me, that's stupid, and it's idiocy. Like, who puts up a graphic and says you have a 96% chance of getting promoted for losing?
That doesn't make sense. You're right. What we need to pay attention to the details of this going forward, and I think it relates to income.
Yeah,
I'd like to see what the shares are going to be to all the conferences, especially the ones that weren't able to participate. What are going to be the shares of the TV income to these big schools, and are they going to drag along the small schools to carry in? And I think that's possible. Now, I don't know if they give the money to the teams or they give the money to the conferences. Certainly, it should be the conferences because the SEC and the Big Ten should share with the other teams they have in a conference. That's what I think. And going forward, I think I'd look really carefully for any information that breaks down the monetary part of this deal.
Yeah, and I could give you some of it right now. Now, uh, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, just to paint you a picture here, because Notre Dame is independent, Notre Dame does not have to share a penny of their money. So they make money from the ACC for having all their sports in there except for football. So they make a
Right.
share of the ACC money. They make 100% of their football money in their deal with NBC. And on top of that, this year, Notre Dame is making $20 million. Now, looking at this, the program received $4 million for qualifying for the college football playoff, $4 million for advancing to the quarterfinals, so that's 8, $6 million for making the semifinals, which is 14, and $6 million for reaching the national championship game. No additional payout would be given from there. So, and the team received $3 million in each round to cover expenses. So Notre Dame, as an independent school, received $23 million and did not have to share a penny with a conference because they don't have one.
That is filthy. That is nasty. That is ugly. That's terrible. I don't. If I were the conferences, I'd be bitching about that. That's ludicrous. I don't know how. Well, look, if they were to join the ACC with football, they'd get their butt kicked. At least they find out what kind of team they got if they played in the ACC. I don't know why they don't do that, but they don't want to share. It's a good point. And if they don't want to share, they keep the money. And as long as you have Notre Dame throughout this country, they're gonna spend money on them, and they're gonna reap the rewards. Wow, that's obnoxious. To even think about a number like that.
Yeah,
$20 million. Wow.
yeah, so I'm looking at it right now. It says with the new 12-team playoff comes the revenue distribution. So $4 million for each of the 12 teams that make the college football playoff, $4 million for each of the 8 teams that make the quarterfinals, $6 million for each of the 4 that make the semis, and $6 million for the 2 teams that make it to the championship, which is what I just stated. And then each team who participates receives $3 million to cover expenses for each round. So you look at all that. So additionally, each conference receives $300,000 for each of its schools whose football team meet the NCAA's APR for participation in a postseason football game. Each independent institution also receives $300,000 if its football team meets the standards. So that's where we're at right now. I mean, that's a lot of money that's going. So if your team keeps on rocking and rolling all the way to the championship, you got $23 million that you're making. You got $3 million to cover your expenses, and then you got $20 million at the end of the day. And Notre Dame, once again, never has to share a penny of their earnings with anyone.
And the other conferences do. The Big Ten and the SEC have got to share their monies. Well,
Yeah, so
that's
how about this?
a really terrible. I don't know who put a pencil on all that, but hey, you got to congratulate Notre Dame for making these kind of deals. I mean, if I was a TV executive, I wouldn't make a deal like that. But they draw like my brother-in-law Brewski talking about golf. He says Tiger Wood moves the needle, and in saying that, Ohio State moves or Notre Dame moves the needle. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, so that's what Notre Dame gets. They get that. But then when it comes to the conference, if you're a conference team, the conference receives $4 million for each team that reaches the 12, and then another $4 million for those. So think about that. So the conference receives $4 million for each team that reaches the 12. So Notre Dame, or pardon me, so that means that the Big Ten had 4. So the Big Ten had $16 million before a game was played because Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon made it. So, yeah, so when you talk about the SEC having a gripe, of course they do, because the Big Ten made more money than any other conference out there. But just think about this when you go home and go to sleep tonight, folks. Ohio State won a national championship. Notre Dame got paid more money for losing.
That's right. Now, all that money's got to be shared with the teams in the conference. It's pittance compared to what happened at Notre Dame. That's disgusting. But hey, it's all revenue. It's all advertising revenue. They make their own deals at Notre Dame. I'm sure that just like the conferences make their own deals with the networks, Notre Dame does the same thing. So they get the money.
Yeah, we got to work out something with the CFP that since I travel to every round, can I have a little bit of those that $3 million expenses? That'd be pretty nice.
I think 10% should go to DT all the time.
Well, thank you, PJ. If we looked at that, if we say that, you get $3 million to cover expenses for what you have to do to go to, to be in the college football playoff, 10% would have given me $300,000 to work with. I could have got some more nachos. But with that
you could deal with that, couldn't you? You could deal with that.
I'll be all right. So with that being said, PJ and I are going to take a step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Congratulations to Notre Dame for being in it. Congratulations to Ohio State for being in it and finding a way to win it. And Jerry said Army dropping in the rankings is disgusting. Absolutely. Doctor's appointment. See you tomorrow. Raise hell. God bless with you, Jerry. We pray for you to be healthy, safe, happy, to heal, and to heal completely and for good, no matter what, to heal through God and to handle well whatever comes your way. So God bless you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, Jer. And what did my older brother today? What did meatball number 1 say to meatball number 2? This is what he said, and it's the last thing I'm going to say before we take a fast break from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. My older brother sent me a message this morning. What did he send me? Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in '07, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really change the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servamation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machines, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machines. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com. And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Of course, we are inside of the Great Lakes Honda City studios, and happy to be here with you. Great Lakes Honda City you can get to very easily by going to 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They have new and used vehicles of all different shapes and sizes. The Civic, the Accord, the Pilot, the Prologue, the Odyssey, the Ridgeline, the HRV, the CRV, which is my favorite. Head off there today for new and used vehicles and let them know the DT sent you over to Great Lakes Honda City. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York, and our exclusive studio partner. Papa Joe and I are here hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. And Joey said I'm getting better at doing it. You know what it is, Joe, is I channel my inner Tim Allen, and I channel my from Home Improvement. So that's where I get it from. That's
so much. But I taught him that when he was a kid, and he carried it forward all this time.
Yeah,
my moose.
Where did it come from, PJ?
My fraternity brothers years ago at the University of Florida. That was the guys from Daytona. That was our call to each other. There was four of us that went to school there, and one of them went to Florida State after he flunked out. And when I flunked out, I went somewhere else. But, when we were there going through everything, that was our call to each other. Ooh, like that, like a big moose.
Yeah.
Funny, really funny.
Yeah. I take that one and I link it to Tim Allen, who's now back on television again with a show called Shifting Gears. It's a new sitcom, and I'm a big fan of Tim Allen. So shifting gears, last man standing, home improvement, and what he just brought into shifting gears, which I'm happy he did, PJ, is that he brought back his so he's been doing that because I did that.
He's a funny man.
Yeah, when I lifted up, when PJ got his Stingray, and he said, "Take a look on the inside of all the stuff he put in there, the stingrays and whatnot, all the awesome emblems that he had." When I looked under the hood, I did what Tim Allen would do when he was on Home Improvement. I looked under the hood and that's not so I did that when I was looking under the hood of the car. But a lot of good stuff here. Shout out to my older brother. Happy that he's happy, and that means the world to me. So. Good for him and good for Miss Diana. Shout out to her. Shout out to the kids. And, shout out to the other kids, Marissa and Boom Boom, doing their thing out here. And, of course, to the incredible one of one MT. And I do want to shout you out, PJ and MT, because y'all got hitched again. And so you did a nice thing for your vows and a 30th anniversary of being married. And so you did a nice ceremony in the church. And I want to give you a shout out as you have committed your love to each other once again. And, I love it and I appreciate it. So happy 30th anniversary and happy celebration of your love once again.
She hears you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So,
actually, when the ceremony was at a private small altar in the rectory, it's a very small chapel.
Yeah.
And that's where it was, and it was really emotional. And I cried the drop of a hat anyway, so that's one thing my kid gets from me too. So it was pretty emotional, but fun.
Yeah. So a celebration of love and a reminder that it exists when you have two good. And I hope you guys, your ears should be, if you and MT's ears are ringing about 5 times a day and MT's in the kitchen shaking her ear going, I don't know if I got water in here. You don't have water. I mention you guys to people all over the world. So
oh, no.
I always say, I was like, I got my parents and I got my parents and I got my other parents. And I tell people all the time, I got my mom and dad and I got my PJ and MT down in Florida. And so happy for the love that you guys have. I'm happy that you extend that to me and that you share that with me. So I couldn't ask for a better set of my mom and dad number 2, and definitely appreciate that love that y'all have. And MT's got a whole, people don't know this. She's got her own staff. She's got a hair staff. She's got a makeup staff. She's got a whole stylist thing. So MT doesn't come on the camera unless her stylist group is getting there on time and doing their work. And if they get one piece of the eyebrow wrong, she fires them. MT's got a tight ship there.
Right. She is glamorous all the time, just about.
She is.
You're right about that.
MT will walk in the room and say, I don't look good today, Dan. MT looks good every day. She's always shining the light.
You look good for 73 years old, Daniel.
Yeah. MT, I don't think you heard it. PJ said you turned 24 this year. So I'm happy that he mentioned that. But shout out to off-camera MT and on-camera PJ. And so, PJ, before we get into talking about the NFL playoffs and what's going on with that, there's some thoughts on my mind when we're discussing this college football stuff, and we're looking at kind of how we step forward. And you were talking about quarterbacks and the quarterbacks of the future, right? So Will Howard, he's obviously done with his time in college, so he could go to the NFL now, the Ohio State quarterback. So we got Will Howard there. On top of that, we have Riley Leonard. So the 2 quarterbacks that played in the college football playoff. We have Kyle McCord from Syracuse. We have Cam Ward from Miami. We have Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders' son, coming from Colorado. So there's a bunch of different guys that are in this thing right now. And when we look at the potential for the 2025 NFL draft, when we look at the quarterback position and kind of ranking, some people put some rankings out there on some of these guys. We have Dylan Gabriel from Oregon, Jalen Milroe from Alabama, who you had mentioned before. So there's a bunch of players that are on this list here that we can look at, and there's some breakdowns of them and whatnot. I know you said you have your own list, so I'd love to get your thoughts on the quarterbacks that are going to be heading into the NFL draft.
Okay, well, I got to go back to their sheet now. I have Cam Ward, of course. I don't think that he's the biggest decision maker deal here. I think he's got some problems that way. Shatter Sandwich, big deal. I don't see him. I don't see either one of these two being in the top five. And the reason I say that, because the ones that I look at, the Kyle McCords and the Riley Leonards and the Cowards, they're older guys. They're 23 years old. They've been in college for years. They're professional quarterbacks playing in college. I mean, I got Cam Ward, Shedeur Samuels, of course. The kid was out of the way. Kyle McCord, who when I saw him play for Syracuse, I said, I've sent you a note right away. Yeah. I said, this kid's going to play next year on Sunday, and he will. I got Howard, of course, Leonard, Dylan Gabriel, Carson Beck is right there, probably better than those two. Jake Jackson Dart from Mississippi, Milroe, and Ewers from Texas. Now, that's 3-6. There's 9 guys there, and every one of them, except for Milroe, maybe, is first round material. Maybe not first or second pick, but they'll be in the first round except for Milroe. And I don't know where he's going to go. But if you were to give me a team with McCord, Howard, or Leonard, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that I've been thinking about. And, I said, I was like, Kyle McCord can end up being the number one quarterback in this draft because there's no true, outside of the combine that's coming up here, there's no true quarterback, in my opinion, that sticks out above everybody else. And so when we look at that, when we look at the 2025 NFL draft, the quarterback prospects here, there's no one to me that is that's the guy. He's the, number one no matter what. We're looking at Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers, and then we're looking at Will Howard. We're looking at Dylan Gabriel, Curtis Rourke, who comes from Indiana, Riley Leonard. So Rourke was the only one that we hadn't mentioned here. There's no true now. If the top 2 picks, if the teams that have the top 2 picks in the NFL draft, and for those that don't know, the NFL draft order for 2025 has been finalized here for the first round here as far as the top 20 plus go, and then they'll figure out the rest as we finish off the playoffs. But Tennessee's 1, Cleveland's 2, the Giants are 3, New England's 4, Jacksonville's 5. So when you look at this, Tennessee drafted Malik Willis, who I saw play twice against Syracuse when he was Liberty's quarterback. It didn't, Malik Willis didn't work out for Tennessee. They let him go. He went to Green Bay, did some good things this year. Then they brought in Will Levis, who I did not have in my mock draft as a first-round quarterback, but other people did. He did not go in the first round, and it seems like he's not the guy. They've tried Mason Rudolph, who they brought in from Pitt, who was supposed to be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger, and that didn't work out. So there's a chance that Tennessee could pick a quarterback. Cleveland has Deshaun Watson. They gave him guaranteed money of over $200 million, so I would imagine they're not going to take a quarterback, but Cleveland does a lot of things that don't make any sense. And then you look at the fact, so they could take one and trade. They could try to trade Deshaun Watson. I don't know where they're going to trade him to. They could try to give Deshaun Watson away to a massage parlor. That could work. But then the New York Giants, you look at the Giants and you say to yourself, okay, there's no Daniel Jones anymore. So they're going to take a quarterback, right? They've got to take a quarterback, but they still got to get an offensive line around this guy. They need guards. They need tackles. So they need to figure that out. And I'm just joking about Deshaun. People don't get crazy. So, and then beyond that, the Raiders, they need a quarterback as well because they played 3 different guys at quarterback this year. They had Aiden O'Connell. They had Desmond Ridder. And they had Gardner Minshew. The irony is every Raiders quarterback I've covered. Gardner Minshew, I've covered East Carolina, and he played there before he transferred, and obviously I covered him in Jacksonville. I covered Aiden O'Connell when he played against Syracuse when he was the Purdue quarterback, and I covered Desmond Ridder for multiple years at Cincinnati. So the Raiders are looking for a quarterback. The Jets arguably are looking for a quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see. But PJ, if it was you, if you were one of these top teams here, Tennessee, Cleveland, Giants, the Raiders, the Jets, what quarterback, if you had to do it today, if you had to pick from the list today of who we've been talking about, and you're the general manager, what quarterback do you feel safest taking when I give you these names on the list? The names Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel, Curtis Rourke, and Riley Leonard. If those were the names on the list, and you're one of those top teams in the top 8 picks, what quarterback would you take if it was you in the top 8?
A very good question. Now, I'm going to answer that first by saying that forget about all this combine stuff when you're talking about quarterback. If you got tape and you looked at these kids that have played for 4 or 5 years, you know how good they are. Sure, they're not playing against the best competition, but they're poised in the pocket. They all got strong arms, and they're smart. I mean, there's 4 or 5 guys that I can answer the question with. So the combine, forget about it. All of the teams that are picking have already got these guys all lined up. They've looked at all the tape that they can see. They've looked at everything the guy can do. They can look how good McCord throws down the field, Howard and Leonard and Gabriel, Carson Beck. There's no secrets here. Forget about the combine stuff. If I had to pick right now for a person who is aged and is thrown for millions of yards and is poised, it would be Will Howard.
Okay. So it was up to PJ, he'd be going Will Howard. I mean, I don't, to me, I'm not going Cam Ward. Cam Ward, there's a lot of hype with Cam Ward, and you got to watch the hype. I'm not a person of hype. I'm a person of let me see what they can do. Shedeur Sanders, I'm not sold on that. The thing about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders is that they've had heroics, and they've come back in games, but I'm looking for a quarterback who's going to lead me through an entire season, be the face of my franchise, arguably, and be the guy that I can lean on at all times. I don't see that right now in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders as guys that I want under center that are going to get hit by NFL linebackers and DNs and so on and so forth for 17 games. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, not the guy I'm going with. Jalen Milroe, he's like a 6th-round guy for me. I was never sold on Jalen Milroe, and I want him to get his money, and I want him to get an opportunity. I was never, ever sold, and PJ knows this because I sat on your couch down in St. Augustine, and I said, Alabama's got all these guys. I'm not sold on this guy. And I looked at you like, is there something about him that I don't know? Because Tua was good, right? When Jalen Hurts was there, Hurts was good. And, I mean, there were guys that handled it well in Alabama. But Jalen Milroe, and I said, okay, you know what? Sometimes a guy comes in, and I don't know enough about him, and then I, watch him, and he matures. But to me, Jalen Milroe, there's nothing that I can say today and that 2 years ago it would have been different. I'm just kind of looking at him going, okay, I mean, he doesn't wow me, and it just doesn't fit. It didn't fit with me that he was the guy that Alabama's like, he's our guy for multiple years. But, so, I mean, Jalen Milroe's not on my list. Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, I'm really happy. See, here's the thing. When you buy college football cards and you open up packs, you get these players and you get their first ever printed card. It's called like a Bowman First, and it says first in the corner. It's supposed to be the first card that has ever been made of this player in history. And I have Jackson Dart cards, and I got him when I didn't know who he was. I'm holding on to all them cards. I got a bunch of Jackson Darts, I believe. So I'm happy that I do, because I got it and looked at it. I'm like, who is Jackson Dart? And now, fast forward a bunch of people talking about him. Now, Kyle McCord, I got to see play a lot. By the way, what Kyle McCord has over everyone on this list, he had more regular season passing yards than every single quarterback on this list. I want people to remember that, because he finished 10th in Heisman top 10, which is disgustingly wrong. And so he set the ACC record, Papa Joe. He had more passing yards in a single season in the Atlantic Coast Conference than anyone in the history of that conference. And that history includes Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, your favorite, Jameis, my famous Winston. They have Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson,
Yeah.
all of those guys. Riley Leonard had been in the conference when he was at Duke. Drake May, all of those guys. Sam Howell. He had a better season than every single quarterback that has ever played a single season for the ACC. He had more passing yards than every quarterback in the history of the ACC in one season. And yet people don't want to talk about this kid. Quinn Ewers, if I hear one more person tell me Quinn Ewers sucks and he's subpar and he's average, this man threw a dart on 4th and 13 to keep the drive alive to eventually help win in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and I watched it live. And these people tell me that this guy doesn't have ice water in his veins. So
Right.
Quinn Ewers will probably be a 4th-round draft pick. He'll be a steal somewhere. Dillon Gabriel I've been talking about since he was at UCF, but ever since he left UCF and went to Oklahoma and Oregon and changed the name on his jersey, people want to talk about him now, which is all well and good. He was a good player back then. Check the tape. So I hope Riley gets an opportunity. I think Dillon's got a shot here. If I'm looking at the quarterbacks right now, and I got to tell you today who I think has a shot that we'll actually see play in a game in the not too distant future, Will Howard, maybe Quinn Ewers, who I think will start as a backup, Kyle McCord, and it would behoove the Giants to draft him. And if they don't want to draft him in the first round, they could probably get him on day 2 or 3. Speaking of Kyle McCord. But if it was me, and I'm looking at this list, my list would be Kyle McCord. Of the guys that I have seen that I can really talk about the most, it would be Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, and Dillon Gabriel that I'd be taking a good hard look at. Then I would look at Riley and Jackson Dart. I need to do more homework on Jackson Dart. I'm not gonna say that I don't. And then Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Curtis Rourke. Those guys are ones that I'm not thinking. But if it was me today, it's Will Howard, Ewers, McCord. I'm going to do my homework on Dart and Gabriel and then come back to you. But this is not a deep group, Papa Joe. So to the credit of the quarterbacks that are in the draft right now, because this group is not deep, because there's no head and shoulders above the rest, it puts us in a position where any one of these guys could start, and they could start a lot earlier than if they were drafted in another season.
Sure, and you're true in saying that. But I'll tell you, the teams have already got the tapes on these guys, and they're looking and saying, "Gosh, look at how cool McCord is in the pocket. Look how Will Howard releases the ball.
Yeah.
Look at how Leonard looks down the field. They see these things. The men we're talking about are 23 years old or older, and that's what I'm looking at. I want to see a 19, 20-year-old kid. I want a man, and these are men. Even Cam Ward is a man. I mean, he's 23 too. So I don't. You're right. You're. Look, it's a crapshoot. I mean, you can do all the work you can digging into these guys and calling their high school coaches and other college coaches. Some of these colleges you got to call 3 times because they bounce around so much. But they've all done the right thing. Kyle McCord did the right thing by coming to Syracuse and shining. Will Howard did the right thing coming from Kansas State and shining. These are really quality players and quality people. So I would behoove the NFL teams to dig a little bit deeper and look at your tape and don't worry about a combine stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and Riley Leonard choosing to leave Duke and going to Notre Dame obviously was the right decision. He went to the national championship. So, there's a lot to be said about what these guys can do and what they can do in a year. What Riley can do in a year, what Will Howard can do in a year, what Kyle McCord can do in a year. That should make an NFL team look really happy because, they might have to pick up a guy 4 games in the season. The quarterback goes down. Can this guy come on my team from a different team and be successful? Well, you got a bunch of guys in this draft that have already shown that they could do it collegiately. And to PJ's credit, they're older guys. These are guys that have been around the block for a minute. Will Howard he got to have a PhD at this point. So, I mean, looking at how long he's been out there. But, good for him, man. I love talking to Will Howard. He was fun. He was a lot of fun because when he fell, when he fell in the Chick-fil-A, or not Chick-fil-A, in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, when he fell in that game, when he was open and he was running against Texas and he fell in the open field when he could have had a touchdown, he was answering my question and he looked at me and he goes, I just want to let everybody know I fell on purpose. And then he was like, you know,
that was kind of klutzy, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was like, I fell on purpose. He's like, I was trying to slow down the clock and this and that. And he was just messing around. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. We're talking about the NFL. Before we take another fast break, PJ, we're going to jump right into the NFL playoffs coming up here. And I want to let people know before we jump to this fast break, coming up in just a couple moments, PJ and I will talk about the Final Four in the NFL. The Washington Commanders, the Philadelphia Eagles on one side. On the other side, the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills. This is my surprise face that Kansas City and Buffalo are playing for the right to get there. Ain't no surprise. They play each other every year in the playoffs. It doesn't matter who's seated where or what's happening when. Kansas City plays Buffalo. The question is, can Buffalo finally turn the tide on Kansas City and beat them in the postseason? They've never done it in the Sean McDermott, Josh Allen era. They're 0-3 in the postseason, 4-1 in the regular season against Pat Mahomes and Andy Don't Call Me Reed. So, we'll see. Will history be made over the weekend, or will Kansas City once again, and the refs, have a nice time in that game? By the way, if they call another roughing the passer or unnecessary roughness when nobody touches Pat Mahomes, knock it off, okay? These calls are ridiculous. Now, Pat Mahomes is a magician. He threw a touchdown pass as someone grabbed his legs. He was falling to the ground, and he somehow had the power to send the ball straight to Travis Kelce. And did you see what Kelce did? Did you see what he did, PJ? He caught that touchdown pass, and he looked down at the guy that fell. I was like, man, that man's dirty. He is dirty. Look, he is dirty. Look at that. He looked right down at him saying, you need some help? What do you need? So Travis Kelce, he's balling out, doing his thing, having fun. Kansas City's the big bad wolf. Can anybody blow their house down? We're going to see. And we're going to talk about it after PJ and I come back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. In my opinion, the only place you should be buying vehicles in Central and Upstate New York. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We are inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios.
I got to ask you a question first.
Yes, sir.
MT and I got to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
The Brooklyn Pickle, is that you?
Yeah.
Ah! Remember you said it was, yes. You're pretty talented, buddy. I tell you, I give you credit for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was.
You sound like one of the old hoods. One of these, Daniel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey,
like sometimes I'm just out here doing my work and I got to say some things the way I say them. So, got to do what I got to do.
But, yeah, so happy to be here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. MT knows her meatball number 2, I guess. She could tell. So, PJ and I are talking about what it is, which is the Chiefs have beaten Buffalo. Would it be? Well, we don't know yet. What it could be, what it will be, this is what we got to talk about. So, PJ, what it is, Josh Allen has never beaten Pat Mahomes in the postseason. Will it be the same or will it be different? What do you think?
Oh, boy. To me, this is the Super Bowl. Philadelphia's going to have something to say about that probably, but this is really the Super Bowl. I'm really looking forward to this game, and I think the whole nation is, as football fans. You really got to love it. I looked at the game I watched so much football this last weekend. MT couldn't get me to move. I watched 3 games on both days, Saturday and Sunday. I never moved, just to go to the bathroom. I watched the Kansas City game. They weren't clicking on all cylinders. They weren't really good on defense. They weren't really good on offense. The special teams were fair. They just have a way of winning. I mean, Andy Reid puts these guys in position to win. And when you got Mahomes almost on his knees, thrown to the best tight end in history, it's sensational. It's scary at how good these guys are. That alone should make them a huge favorite. And I think there will be a favorite. Technically, probably with the boys, is probably a flipping game. Look, we know all about these teams. We know about Josh Allen. We know about Patrick Mahomes. We know back and forth and everything. We've seen these guys play forever.
Yeah.
And it's a great game to watch. I think it's all going to come down to the defenses. I think the defenses are going to be real sharp. Steve Spagnuolo from the Chiefs, is a wizard, and he's been around for 40 years too. I think Joe Brady's probably going to have to come up with some really clever calls to move the ball. Josh Allen is like Lamar Jackson. He's a freak. He's 6'5", 240 pounds, and runs like a halfback. If he calls his number the way Lamar Jackson calls his number, it's going to be a tough game for them. Mahomes won't do that. He's not that kind of quarterback. He'll skitter about and save some time, but he'll run when he has to. That's the difference. And I get, you've always heard me complain about quarterbacks that run. There's quarterbacks that run, or there's a running quarterback. Daniel likes running quarterback. I say quarterbacks that run, whatever,
Yeah.
It's a designated play like Lamar Jackson. It's a play. Josh Allen does that. He calls his own number or audibles to his own number. So one thing that came up on my notes, by the way, Daniel, this is the end of another booklet of notes. This is the fifth one.
We're gonna sell these
another
books.
eBay seller.
I was saying we're gonna sell these books on eBay. The PJ books of
one thing that we
knowledge.
noticed was that Schuster, Hopkins, and Hollywood Brown got no receptions last week. Now those three guys are studs, and Mahomes didn't ignore them. They were just giving Kelce in the middle. Why weren't they double teaming Kelce? Well, I don't know. I can't answer that question. But Kelce can take over a game. Now, Buffalo's defense is looking at that and saying, well, we got a front and back. If we're going to play zone, we got to be one front, one in the back. We play man-to-man, you've got to have a help from the linebacker. Someone's got to help me. So if they do that, if they take away that, then it opens up for Schuster and Hopkins and Brown and the little guy, Worthy. So, he's got a lot of weapons, let's face it. But the defense is going to call the game for Patrick Mahomes. If he's looking over the line and he sees a double team on Kelce, he'll go elsewhere. Yeah. But Kelce is so clever, and he and Mahomes have got this telepathic sense. When Mahomes starts jitty-bugging in the pocket, Kelce does the same thing. He starts moving. Where is he going to go? I have to find a spot for me. And that's what he does. He'll move around until he finds a spot. He'll stop. Mahomes will see him. Boom. It's there. It's remarkable to watch. Josh Allen doesn't have that kind of deal. Frankly, he doesn't have too many wide receivers to count on at all. But it's just Josh Allen's going to have to beat this team, and I don't think they can, Daniel.
Well, PJ, you originally picked Buffalo, so you're going to change your pick now.
I know.
All right, so PJ,
yep, I changed my mind.
PJ's going with Kansas City. I am going to go to the other side, and I am going to pick the Buffalo Bills, who I originally picked when we started this postseason. I'm going to stick with the Buffalo Bills, and here's the thing. Josh Allen, yes, the man's got to put the team on his back a lot. But they have brought in Amari Cooper. They have tried to do some things here. Dalton Kincaid is a fantastic tight end that people underestimate because they focus on Travis Kelce. Now, Dalton Kincaid has been a threat. I told y'all about James Cook when I interviewed the younger brother of Delvin Cook many years ago when Georgia was playing for and won the College Football Playoff National Championship. And I told y'all about James Cook. And people didn't really, first year, they were kind of quiet about him. Second year, everybody fell in love with James Cook, drafted him in fantasy football. Well, James Cook, who's in my I got a little autograph of James Cook in the studio here, courtesy of GG Cards and Breaks. Shout out to them. I won one of the giveaway things, which was cool. Now, Mr. Cook is a threat, and the defense can create some opportunities, can create some turnovers. Now, Buffalo, for the last 3 years, there was a lot of hype. There was a lot of, this team's going to make the Super Bowl, and they're a Super Bowl team this year, and they're the best team out there. Well, I don't think Buffalo plays well when Buffalo is getting all of that hype. I think Buffalo, like most of us here in upstate New York, we play better when we have a chip on our shoulder. Well, now Buffalo's got the chip firmly planted back on the shoulder. They didn't get the type of love that they got in other seasons this season. There wasn't as much talk about the Super Bowl this season. So the pressure maybe came off a little bit, which can be a good thing. So do they have to beat the big bad wolf? Yeah. Do they have to do it in Kansas City? Yeah. Is it going to be cold in Kansas City? You betcha. But this team is used to the cold. The Buffalo Bills are used to, their fans love this team so much, they'll come and shovel hours before the game just so they can sit in their own seat. So the Kansas City Chiefs very well can do it again. Why couldn't they do it again? They're that team. They are the toughest team to beat in the NFL. Hands down, without question. But the Buffalo Bills come in this season, like I said, playing with less of this hype, less of this pressure, which I think is good for them. I think they're better in that situation. Do they have to play almost a perfect game? Yeah. Does Tyler Bass have to kick it through the uprights? Yeah. Does he have to not hit the goalpost or come near the goalpost or anything like that? Absolutely. Yeah. Last year, Tyler Bass, he didn't make it. And down the stretch, that was a tough thing for the team. I know Tyler's got to play a near-perfect game. I know Josh Allen's got to play a near-perfect game. I know that Buffalo's going to have to create some turnovers in this game. But I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to predict that they have at least 2 turnovers that they create and get the ball back from Kansas City. And that taking the clock down, systematically running it, and making good decisions with Josh Allen and the crew will get them the victory that they have so yearned for over the years, and the Buffalo Bills will head to the Super Bowl for the first time since the 90s.
Okay, it's good. I love both teams.
Yeah.
I love both teams. You're right about Josh Allen. He has to put the team on his back. But there's just something about the Mahomes. I don't know what you call it. He's just so elusive.
Yeah.
I know that when the Bills played, who was it? Kansas City played Houston. They played Houston last week.
Yeah.
Where they had 8 sacks. Chris Jones is their big defensive end, or defensive tackle, defensive end. He plays anywhere he wants to. He's going to have to be a big part of this. But if you blitz Josh Allen, you better be ready to tackle him because he's big and strong. It's going to be a great game. I can't wait for it. I mean, I know it's probably going to be the second game on Sunday, but I just can't wait. I think just to see Allen and Mahomes go against each other is just phenomenal. I can't get over it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing game, and we'll see who wins. I will be with my brother, Jimmer Sikowski, this weekend at his house. He looked at me yesterday. He said, "Where are you going to be for the game?" I said, "Jimmer, I got nowhere to be." He looked right at me. He goes, "My house." And I said, "All right. No better place to be than when Mr. Sikowski in all his Bills gear. I'm excited for it. I got him some of that gear, so I'm looking forward to it very much so. On the other side of it, we have the NFC. We have Washington against Philadelphia. They don't like each other. They play each other twice a year. They're not fans of each other. The NFC East is a punch-down, drag-out thing, but Philadelphia is not used to Washington being good. Heck, Washington's not used to Washington being good. But the Dallas Cowboys are so bad that even the Giants sometimes look good.
Oh, my goodness.
So Washington, they had the top. Then Philly took the top. Then Washington said, hold on one second. we're going to go to the playoffs. And even though you might have this division, you might not have it all locked up. Washington's playing with house money because who thought Washington was going to do it in a rookie season for Jaden Daniels? I predicted at the beginning of the season that Jaden Daniels would have the best rookie season of any 2024 rookie quarterback, and he absolutely did the thing. Now Jaden Daniels, who found a way to beat Detroit. There was no answer by Detroit. No answer for Washington's offense. They scored at will. Cliff Kingsbury, former head coach of the Cardinals, former head coach in college, I think USC, and now an offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. He outsmarted Aaron Glenn, who's now set to be potentially the Jets head coach, outsmarted Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator of the Lions, and all the Lions. Granted, the Lions had guys that were injured, but you play the game that you play, and Cliff Kingsbury took advantage of every single opportunity he possibly could, which has left us in a place where the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles will face each other one more time. Guess what? This year, they split their series. Washington lost in Philadelphia 26-18 back on November 14th. Then, when Philly came to town to D.C., Washington beat them, technically Landover, Maryland, which is where the Army-Navy game was this year. So I was at the stadium where they raise hell. And Philadelphia lost that game to Washington on the road 36-33. This is the game that will decide it. The series is tied 1-1 this season, and Washington's going back to Philadelphia. What do you think is going to happen, PJ?
This is great. This is a good game. I do have to jump on a Jaden Daniels bandwagon, too. Sensational job this year. He's the C.J. Stroud of this year's quarterbacks, and he certainly is a slam dunk for Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, whatever you want to call it. Maybe even Pro of the Year. He's playing so well. Although, I got to tell you a little something about the defense of Philadelphia, who's being run by Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio has been around for 40 years in football. Coached all over the place, head coaches some places, and he just has an old man grumpy way about him. Last year he was the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, and from what I understood from the reading was that he didn't acquit himself to the new younger culture. They didn't understand what he was saying. So anyway, Vic Fangio comes up. He was hired by Kevin Sirianni to take over the defense for Philadelphia. So what happens this year is Philadelphia, after miserable the last couple of years, had the number one overall defense in football, period. Now, Vic Fangio, a little something about him. When he came to meet his defensive people, this is what he said. He said, "It's not your fault you don't work hard." That's what he said. But then he said, "It's not your fault. You just don't know how." And that set it all right there. But it's going to change right now. Like what the Donald said. Change right now. And damn if he didn't do it. I mean, his defensive guys, look, he's an old grumpy guy. And he does it. He does it the way that he can he ingratiates himself to his players, especially some of the older players here at Philadelphia, and they love him and they listen to him. And they put him in spot. And look, he's also, I think he's way up in the roof calling the shots. So he's got the whole field in front of you. Frankly, I like the way they do that. Defensive coordinator, maybe he's down below. I don't know. To me, I think it's a great advantage to be in the roof to look down for an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. But anyway, that being said right there, I think Jaden Daniels is probably going to get a lesson from one of the best minds in football.
Yeah, and Vic Fangio, if you look up a picture of him, folks, he looks like he is definitely in something that rhymes with schmafia. And but he absolutely
He probably enjoy that.
Yeah, he absolutely looks the part here. And the quote that PJ said that is one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio looking, going in the defensive team meeting room on the first day of organized team activities last spring and delivered a line that immediately put the players on their heels. "It's not your fault you don't work hard." end quote. It's not, and then he went on to say, it's not your fault, you just don't know how. But that's going to change now that I'm here, end quote. So
Isn't that great?
That's incredible. It's not your fault that you don't work hard, you just don't know how. But now that I'm here, that's going to change. Vic Fangio, I mean, serious. And when an Italian comes in the room and he says, it's not your fault, you don't know what you're doing, but now that I'm here, we're going to know what you're doing. And if he said it with like that deep, that deep Italian voice, or if he said it with that,
Yeah, this is how we gonna do it.
However he said it. When an Italian comes in the room and he looks you dead in the face,
that's right.
You listen. Why do you think that people of all different ages, nationalities, backgrounds, this, that, whatever, they go see Pacino, they go see De Niro? It doesn't matter what movie they're in. They go and see him. They go see Pesci. They love it. So, Vic Fangio, I respect you. And I respect Philadelphia. And I respect Saquon. Because he, like Derrick Henry, not on this show, but in other places, 31 is too old to play football if you're a running back. And Saquon said, shove it up your... And so did Derrick Henry. 2,000 yards for both of those guys. Right. And I'm sorry, but they need to co-MVP that thing and just hand it off to the both of them.
That's right.
But on Washington's side, house money. They didn't just beat Detroit. They beat them in Motor City. They demoralized them. They scored when they felt like it, and they had 31 points in the first half. Jaden Daniels went out there. He started on the field. He did the sign of the cross when he went out there, and he talks about God all the time, and I love it. He did this very simply, and then he went out and he did that, and then he ran, and he took care of business. Jaden Daniels is a rookie, and he's one step out of the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? Can a man make some history today? Can he make some history this weekend? Jaden Daniels in Washington, one of the worst teams in football, a laughingstock of football, a team that changed their name and then said, well, we're going to change it, but we don't know what to change it to. A team decided to change their name and then didn't have a name to change it to and spent 2 years trying to figure out what to call themselves. A team that just a few years ago had an identity crisis on their team and actually in their name. And now the Commanders and Jaden Daniels are one step out of the Super Bowl, and who stands in their way? Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Vic Fangio. How could they ever beat Philadelphia? Because they beat Detroit, baby. Give me Washington. I'm going with the Commanders to win this game.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I got to say something else.
Go
ahead. Something else about the Lions game. You were correct in that. Unfortunately, Mr. Campbell lost his offensive coordinator. He's going to lose his defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He also lost his assistant coach, defensive coordinator, who was going to be the defensive coordinator at New England. So he's lost 3 top coaches, but he knew that was coming. He said, I prepared for this. He says, I know that my guys are going to get positions, and he'll hire the right people. But I was shocked, frankly, at the game that I watched. I wasn't shocked at Danny's because I've seen him all year. He does throw the ball really well, and he's cool. But for Detroit's defense to give up that many points and yards was unusual, especially for a guy like Campbell. So, I mean, you got to give him credit. I mean, I do, but they're going up against a different animal here, and Vic Fangio is going to be ready for the kid.
Yeah. So, PJ is going Philly, KC. I am going Washington, Buffalo. And we got one more thing to talk about. We're going to take this final fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. And when PJ and I come back, we saved the worst for last. The Jacksonville Jaguars don't have the right people in the locker room doing interviews. They don't have the right they don't have a head coach. They don't have a GM. And I can tell you this right now, they probably don't have a coaching staff because these guys aren't going to wait around for Shad Khan to make up his mind. So they got to hire a GM. They got to hire a head coach. They got to hire a coordinator on offense, coordinator on defense, coordinator on special teams. They got to go all the way down to quality control and the guy that picks up the towels.
That's right.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have made a bad decision. Am I surprised? Well, they made a bad decision at the beginning of the season. Why am I surprised they made a bad one at the end? We'll talk about this. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who are they going to bring in at this point? Is there anybody? Denzel Washington was in Remember the Titans. He was a good coach in that movie. Maybe they should call him. I like Denzel. He can play any role. I respect the heck out of him because at this point, the only thing that's going to be left are actors. Because Jacksonville has waited too long. We are not in Act 1. We are not in Act 2. We are in the final act of the dang movie, and we still don't know what the premise is about. We don't know when the climax is coming, and we have no idea what the moral of the story is. The Jacksonville Jaguars have proven yet again that they were not prepared for the task at hand. I told you Trent Baalke was getting interviewed while he was doing interviews. Some of y'all believe me, maybe some of y'all didn't, but I was right. He was looking at Trent. Shad Khan was watching Trent, watching him do interviews, and Trent might have known, he might have not known. Was his job on the line? Well, obviously it was. And now we're a few weeks in, and the college football season is over, which means the people that were being talked to had already been talked to. So now you're trying to talk to these people while they're getting ready for spring ball, while they're getting ready for early enrollment, guys that are coming in to college. Think about this. The season ended January 20th, but early enrollees come in January. And then in March, we're playing spring ball. So you wanted to talk to college coaches, you might be too late. You want to talk to pro coaches, you might be too late. You want to talk to Papa Joe and I, well, guess what? Our numbers just doubled, and maybe they tripled. We'll talk about it right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. It's going to cost you, Jacksonville, because you waited too long. We'll talk about it right after this.
FT.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicoli's.com. That's myavicoli's.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. You will find everything you need at GG Cards and Breaks. PJ will find all of the Jameis Winstons that he could possibly take into his collection. You'll find it all at GG Cards and Breaks. Football, basketball, soccer, baseball, hockey, Disney Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering. They have Marvel cards as well. So many different things you can get right there on site, on location at GG Cards and Breaks. If you've never collected cards before, now's a great time to start. And if you have collected cards, well, you know how cool it is. You get to stay a big kid for the rest of your life. You get closer to the action, closer to the players that you love, closer to the teams that you love, closer to the characters that you love. And you got those trading card games like Lorcana and Pokemon and whatnot where you can really get involved. And then you have those rookie cards, the autograph cards, the relic cards. How cool is it to walk into a place and find a piece of history and bring it home? You can do that at GG Cards and Breaks today. Go make history. Let them know that DT sent you to 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. GG Cards and Breaks open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6 and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, Papa Joe and I are here speaking with you on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, the Patriots have hired their coach. I predicted that last year they should have done this, but they've now hired Mike Vrabel. And guess what? Who's coming back as the offensive coordinator? Josh mother-freaking McDaniels. He's back, baby. Gonna make it interesting. Drake May is probably very excited because McDaniels was training who? Tom Brady. No big deal. So that's happening in New England. The New York Jets looking to be that they got Aaron Glenn. We know that the Chicago Bears have Ben Johnson, who is coveted by many allegedly, including the Raiders and the Jaguars. So there's teams that have figured out what they're going to do. So what are the Saints going to do? What are some of these other teams, what are the Raiders going to do? And what are the Jacksonville Jaguars going to do? They don't have a GM. They don't have a head coach. And they probably don't have anybody on the coaching staff. So, PJ, tell me, what is Jacksonville going to do as we step forward?
Well, I got a lot to say about that. First, I would like to say that the pundits down here last week had Liam Cohen already in the building, getting ready to work, but that didn't happen, and he decided to remain in Tampa Bay. Something that happened with Ben Johnson, I read about. Now, Ben Johnson was the number one candidate for all of the teams that we just talked about, period. There's no doubt about that. When he was offered the job, or was offered the interview for the job again, I think he told himself that I don't like the situation down there. I don't like Belkey I don't like what's happening down there. Now, if he rationalizes it that way, is he saying he likes Caleb Williams over Trevor Lawrence? Are you kidding me? I mean, if you had that situation and you were offered that, why would you not take the Jacksonville job? So he's saying, without saying it, that I don't want anything to do with Jacksonville. I'll take Caleb Williams and turn him into a Trevor Lawrence. Case closed. Now, Mr. Khan has made a mockery of this whole thing. We know that, and you've talked about it on air, and there's nothing else to say about it. He made a bad mistake. He knows it. Now he's got to go back and figure it out. In my opinion, there are only 4 candidates for us, and they're all offensive coordinators. Joe Brady, Cliff Kingsbury, Kellen Moore, and Mike McCarthy. Now, the pundits down here, as of yesterday afternoon, have got Mike McCarthy in the deal. Pundits love to talk, you know that, Daniel. I mean, we're all talking about all sorts of things. They all have all sorts of ideas.
Yeah.
But they got Mike McCarthy already sitting in his chair. So those offensive coordinators, no offense to the other candidates, Graham and Robert Salah, and they're good defensive coaches. We don't need that. We need offense, and we need a person to organize it and do it well. As good as Pedersen is, he wasn't right for the job. Now, someone could say, well, look, Pedersen won a Super Bowl. McCarthy won a Super Bowl. Pedersen lost his job. McCarthy lost his job. You just see the similarity there. Is McCarthy going to do the same thing that Pedersen did that didn't work, or would he do something different? How would you approach that? I mean, he's got to come up with the right answers. Pete Carroll is also in the conversation, but the 4 that I mentioned are the ones that talk about down here: Mike McCarthy, Joe Brady, Cliff Kingsbury, and Kellen Moore.
Yeah, and we look at this right now. I'm taking a look at the Liam Cohen saga. He allegedly pulled his name out of the running for the Jaguars head coaching job. That makes you feel good. Pulled his name out of the running here. Now, he's the same age as I am. He's 39 years old. And he was one of 3 people scheduled for in-person interviews. Jacksonville had done a bunch of interviews, allegedly not in person, over the phone or Zoom or whatever. And they had scheduled 3 in-person interviews. And he was one of the 3. The other 2, former New York Jets head coach Robert Salah and Las Vegas
Raiders.
The Raiders defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham. Now, those are the only 2 other ones scheduled. So, Liam Cohen is allegedly staying with Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't think that's a bad decision. They're a playoff team. And he has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Rashad White and Bucky Irving, and from Syracuse, single season rushing leader Sean Tucker, who wears number 44, and he won 34 at he wore 34 at Syracuse, and he's got Baker Mayfield. Why is that man going to go anywhere? To come to Jacksonville and probably get fired in 3 years? So, Liam Cohen allegedly staying with the Bucs. So the other 2 names for in-person interviews that I have a problem with, nothing against these guys, I just want to talk about it. Robert Salah, a head coach that his team didn't want so bad that they fired him during the season, which PJ is against. It was the earliest job available because he was the first person fired. They couldn't score. They couldn't move the ball. They have Aaron Rodgers healthy for a season, a bunch of receivers. They make a move for Devontae Adams. They got multiple running backs. Could not figure it out. Why would Jacksonville, a team that's losing, take a coach from a team that was losing? So you want to take the Jets quarterback or the Jets head coach when the Jets head coach got fired during the season. And you want the fan base to get behind that. So that's why I'm against that. Not that Robert Saleh can't be a head coach. Not that he can't be a coordinator. Just that why would Jacksonville, who is reeling, take a coach from a team that was reeling? That doesn't make sense. That's one argument. Here's the other argument. Why would Jacksonville take Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator from the Las Vegas Raiders? Why would they take him when the Raiders don't even want him? Think about the 2 in-person interviews that are not named Liam Cohen. A coach that got fired during a season and a coordinator whose own team doesn't want him to be the head coach. So you want to take one or the other of 2 guys whose franchises did not want them. And they are 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, and they're drafting right around you. They're in the top 8 drafting with you. Why would you, as a team who's drafting 5th, take a coach from a team who's drafting above you or right with you in the top 10? That you're taking a coach from a losing team to try and help your team that's losing to win. Make it make sense. Liam Cohen made sense because they win in Tampa. They win with Brady. They win with Baker. Baker Mayfield was done. He was dead in the water. Right? Wrong. He showed me. I didn't think he was going to be able to spin back like this. But he did. Happy he proved me wrong. Joe Brady is with the Buffalo Bills. With Josh Allen and the crew. Winning games. Fighting for the opportunity to go to a Super Bowl. That makes sense. Todd Monken's coming from a winning team. It doesn't make sense because he has Lamar and Trevor's not Lamar, so he'd have to change the way that he schemes. So I can't necessarily see the Todd Monken thing, although he's coming from a good team. So really the conversation is Liam Cohen, which apparently is not going to happen, and Joe Brady. Now they got to circle back. Now they got to go back to these people that they didn't ask for a second interview and say, hey, can you interview with us again? Even though we didn't want to interview with you a second time before, now that we're in a bad spot, can you get the sloppy seconds? Because we can't get Liam Cohen, so now can we have you? And guess what? Kellen Moore has every right to say, piss on you. And so does Joe Brady. Because the Jacksonville Jaguars waited too long, and they would rather look at hiring a coach that lost than hiring a coach that's been on a team that's winning. What do Kellen Moore, Joe Brady have in common? Their teams are still playing. What do Robert Saleh and Patrick Graham have in the common? Their teams are drafting early. Why would you take somebody from a franchise that's arguably worse than you, or almost as bad as you, or maybe just a little hair better than you, and bring them in? When you can bring in a Joe Brady or a Kellen Moore who knows what it's like to be in a locker room that wins. We're not just talking about being on a team that's still playing. They're in a locker room with a culture of winning. Philadelphia wins consistently. Buffalo wins consistently. Shad Khan, for the love of goodness, you can either be Jerry Jones or you can make a good decision. And if you got money overseas and you got money right here, you got Shad Khan money, then you call up Joe Brady, you call up Kellen Moore, you get down on your knees, you say, baby, I'm sorry, and you throw money at those people, and you throw opportunity at those people, and you bring them in the building. Because Patrick Graham and Robert Saleh come from losing cultures. Not that they can't win, But Jacksonville needs somebody who right now is coming off of success. You need to revitalize your fan base. You cannot make a flower grow by bringing another dead flower next to it and saying it's going to make it grow. The only way you can get this flower to grow is to bring in a flower that has grown, that has flourished, so it can teach this flower how to get in the sunlight and get enough rain on it. Joe Brady and Kellen Moore make sense, but Jacksonville doesn't seem to like sense. That's my thought.
The thre we're talking about, Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator for Washington, who's done a great job with Jaden Daniels. Kellen Moore runs Philadelphia's. Well, we know what's happening there. And Joe Brady at Buffalo. So those three that you're talking about, or I'm talking about, are winners. And they're still winning. Now, Mike McCarthy and Pete Carroll are from the old guard, but McCarthy makes a lot of sense to me. I really like McCarthy, but who I really, really like is Cliff Kingsbury. Now, he's an off-the-wall kind of guy. We know he's been around. He has some attitude problems, but the guy's got a brilliant friggin' mind. He can score from a bed. He's unbelievable. Kellen Moore is good. Joe Brady's good. Cliff Kingsbury's got a really, really quick mind. And I look for him to why doesn't Shad just call up the agents of these people and say, let me schedule something for these guys? Let's do it the right way, like you said. He didn't do it the right way. Now, if he wants to get a hold of Mike McCarthy, it's going to cost him a lot of money. Mike is proven. The rest of these guys are proven, but not in the head coach. So Mike McCarthy costs a lot of money, several million more than what he would have to pay for Brady, Kingsbury, and Moore. So let's see where it goes.
Yeah. All I'm saying is hire somebody who's coming off a winning culture. Don't take a losing culture coach and bring him onto a losing culture team. So it just doesn't make sense. Not that Graham can't get something, not that Robert Salah can't get something, but aren't they saying that Robert Salah allegedly is going back to San Francisco to make buku bucks as their defensive coordinator again? So that could just be another wasted time moment. So then you're left with Patrick Graham. So, Jacksonville, do something. You're spending billions of dollars to build a stadium that nobody's going to sit in. Unless you make a change toward positivity. Urban Meyer was nice for a month and a half because he lasted until the middle of October because he would rather dance with some 24-year-old girl, allegedly, than get on a plane. So you got that. Then you got Doug Peterson. And Doug Peterson did some good things. But it didn't work out. And you got to hire the right coordinators. I think Doug Peterson figured that out. You got to hire the right coordinators. You have to hire people that you can trust to run your offense and defense and your special teams, because a head coach is kind of like having another GM. And whoever becomes a head coach of Jacksonville might have to be the GM. Maybe Mike McCarthy is the number that they call, because maybe Mike McCarthy has been in the league so long and he's one of those coaches that has been tenured for such a long time that maybe he wants to be a GM head coach. Maybe he wants more power. So maybe that makes sense. But Shad, it is January 23rd. Before you know it, we're going to be drafting and we're going to be having rookie minicamp. You need to make a decision today about your roster, because are we keeping Travis Etienne Jr.? Are we keeping Andre Sisco? Are we getting an offensive line? Are we getting a defensive line? Who's the leader on the team? Is it Trevor? What are you going to do with Foye Oluokun? You just gave him money. Is he happy? Is he settled? Is he good? Is Josh Allen good? The last thing that should have happened to this franchise is for them to be put in limbo. You don't leave these guys in purgatory right now. And that is where they are. And the longer that these veterans sit and wait for Shad Khan to make a decision, the less likely they're going to want to play for this team.
The worst part about it is that the Jaguars are last in offense and defense this year. Last. So, also, if you're looking at one of these guys to be a head coach, You're thinking, man, how am I going to pick this offense up to be a middle of the road guy? Where am I going to find a defensive coordinator to help me do that?
Right.
It's a big job, Daniel. It's a big job. It's not going to be easy, especially when your offensive defense is last in the NFL. So let's say good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, we hope it works out for you, Jacksonville. We hope you figure it out and figure it out soon, because the clock is ticking and something needs to be done. With that being said, Papa Joe and myself want to thank you for being here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. PJ, as always, I appreciate you. Appreciate all the work that you do, and appreciate those notebooks that are now priceless.
Okay, I'll give them to you for rebate. All right, see you later.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon. That coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the show on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Cannot thank you enough for being a part of it. I put the polls up on X, the former Twitter, and getting your thoughts here on who you think is going to win over the weekend in the NFL playoffs. And we're also putting up a poll right now that I would like to share with you all. That poll that I am putting up here currently is, who would you like to see of these three names that I'm putting up? Who would you like to see the Jacksonville Jaguars hire as their next head coach? Cliff Kingsbury, the Washington offensive coordinator? Would you like to see Kellen Moore, the Eagles offensive coordinator? Or would you like to see Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator? So you can do that. You can tell me your thoughts right now by going and voting. That poll is going up momentarily here. The other ones are already up, but I'm just finishing the final touches here on the Jaguars poll. Would love to get your thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars and who you think they should go with if you had to pick. And by the way, what do these three offensive coordinators have in common? They're all still coaching in the postseason of 32 franchises, 4 are left, and these guys are all still in the playoffs, in the running to try and win an NFL title. So that's important to me, because you got to bring somebody in who can have that and ride that momentum right now. And like I said, it's not that you can't bring in somebody who's lost, or you can't bring in somebody who has struggled at times and whatnot. It's not that you can't do that. I'm not saying that just because a coach is on a losing team that they can't figure it out. I'm saying for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, it doesn't make sense for them to bring in a coach, unless that coach has a plan that's going to blow everybody else out of the water. It doesn't make sense for the Jacksonville Jaguars to hire a coach from a losing team to help their losing team win. It just doesn't make sense right now. It makes sense for them to go and get somebody who's still coaching. So who would you like to see the Jaguars hire as their next head coach? Cliff Kingsbury, Washington OC, Kellen Moore, Philly OC, or Joe Brady, Buffalo OC? That's up and running on X, the former Twitter. You can follow me at CallDT, that's CALLDT, and vote today. Who will win the AFC Championship? 66.7% of you have picked Buffalo, 33.3% have picked Kansas City. And who will win the NFC Championship? It has moved to 50-50, Washington and Philly. So vote in our polls this morning and let me know what you're thinking. I appreciate y'all that vote in our polls all throughout the year. Wake Up Call is with you all throughout the year on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. And, of course, on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. You can watch and listen Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and I thank you all for doing that. You can also find Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora by going to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Podchaser.com, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. If you want to find us on any search engine, you can look up my name, Dan Tortora, or you can look up Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and find us on Safari, Google, and so on and so forth. And your Alexa and Google Home devices will also play Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. If you ask them to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, they will do that for you as well. A big time thanks to Brooklyn Pickle down in Southern Pines, North Carolina. You can go and see them right by Pinehurst Golf Course, and make sure you head down there. They're just a few minutes from that historic golf course down in Southern Pines on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. You can also see our wonderful partners here in upstate New York in Central New York by going to Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, as well as Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Avicoli's, GG Cards and Brakes, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Servomation, reimagining, reinvigorating, and just creating in such a beautiful way what it's like to have vending in your school, in your business, in your rest stop, wherever you may be. Servomation is the one that should be serving your location. Go and see Servomation at servomation.com and find out more about their technology and awesome offerings by going to servomation.com. Chick-fil-A Cicero, Pizza Man, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, and Brian's Landing. And of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Dolphins in Dolphin Time. Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, you'll find the Dolphins hanging out with me, student athletes, coaches, future Dolphins, alumni, administration, all joining us over the last 3+ years in this unprecedented partnership that Lemoyne College has signed with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. You will find all of our content with the Dolphins by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Lemoyne playlist. You can also find us every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for a new piece of our Dolphin history airing on Wake Up Call. And, of course, they're on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com and Fins Up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bobcats every single month with student athletes, coaches, and administration joining me to speak on the Bobcats. And, of course, we are inside a men's and women's basketball season. We just aired our men's basketball special this week. Don't miss a second of such a heartfelt and awesome discussion with a team that I just got a good feeling about. You can go see the Bobcats by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the BSC Syracuse playlist and our latest episode of the Bobcat Buzz featuring the men's basketball team with Dallas Carrington, David Honoree, and head coach Clay Gagan Sherman. Of course, you can find them by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every Tuesday during Bearcat Time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora weekly, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time worldwide. You will find student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year telling their stories and their connection to the greater Bearcat family. All of this is on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist, including our most recent conversation, which we got to have with Brian Luciano, who is a thrower, and he loves throwing the hammer. Definitely got to listen to this conversation. Loves throwing the hammer. A real-life superhero, Brian Luciano, joining me from the men's track team at Binghamton University in our latest special. You can find all of our content on our YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, look for the Binghamton playlist, and of course, Binghamton is also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage underneath the exclusive partners tab as well. And for more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank Papa Joe for making this show what it is every Thursday. He is my better half. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I know that I have been critical of my Jaguars, and people say, oh, Dan, you love the Jaguars. As a fan, yes, I do. As an impartial broadcaster, there's a lot of things to work on. Now, I send them my love. I send them my appreciation. There's no hate. There's no animosity. There's no anger. I don't live in that world, and I don't live in a world that seeks revenge. I hope the best for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love my franchise. I appreciate them. And as an impartial broadcaster, I just want to see them do better. I want to see them do better and bring people in the building that really care about people. That's what I want to see. For Papa Joe and for myself, Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. From the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, this is Wake Up Call. God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll talk soon.